What's good, everyone? This is Manaro and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to cover chapters 52 to 57. Hope you enjoy. With the hounds being useless, Ghost has led the party to the bodies of two rangers. The area makes both the hounds and the horses nervous, and even Jon feels uncomfortable. Sir Jeremy Riker identifies the bodies as Othar and Jafer Flowers, two of Benjen Stark's men. It was Jafer's right hand that Ghost brought to Jon in the Weirwood Grove. The corpse's remaining hand is as black as the cloak he wears. Both of the corpses have the same pale skin, black hands, and staring blue eyes. Remarking that they are only two of the 6 men that Benjen took with him, Lord Commander Mormont asked Sir Jeremy how 2 men could die so close to the wall without the Rangers knowing. Othar even wears a hunting horn. Sir Jeremy insists that no horn was blown or it would have been heard. He goes on to complain that he does not have sufficient men to patrol and mentions the Lord Commander's own order to stay close to the wall following Benjen's disappearance. Mormont asks how the men died. A quick examination shows that Jafer was killed by an axe blow to the neck and that Othar is riddled with wounds. The old forester Dywin suggests that Othar was known to carry an axe. Sir Jeremy points out that the wildlings carry axes as well, suggesting it to be the work of Mance Rayder, which Mormont finds questionable so close to the wall. Sir Jeremy asks who else it could have been. Jon knows the answer. They all do, but the others have been gone for 8,000 years if they ever existed at all. Mormont declares that if Benjen had been attacked so close to Castle Black, he would have returned for more men before going after the attackers. Sir Jeremy suggests that sometime in the 6 months that Benjen has been gone, his party might have been attacked by wildlings and that Othar and Jafer were only the last survivors. To support this claim, the knight points out that the bodies cannot have been dead for more than a day. Sam now speaks up. The fat boy is present to be the eyes of blind old Maester Aemon, but Jon had to force the cowardly boy to even look at the bodies. Now Sam insists that Sir Jeremy is wrong about the bodies. At the Lord Commander's urging, Sam points out that the blood in the corpse's veins is dry and crusty, as if they have been dead for a long time. However, the bodies do not stink and have not begun to decompose. They are also untouched by maggots or scavengers. Suspicious of the untouched nature of the corpses, Mormont orders Chet to bring one of the hounds closer, but no matter how hard he tries, the hounds fight to stay away from the bodies. In addition, Sam points out that there are no pools of blood to indicate that the men were killed there, indicating that the bodies have been moved. The old forester Dywin and Sir Jeremy also note that they do not recall either Othar or Jafer having blue eyes. Several of the other rangers urge that the bodies should be burned, but the Lord Commander wants Maester Aemon to examine them further. It proves impossible to tie the bodies to the horses, who panic at their proximity to the corpses, so they are carried back on crude slings. Lord Commander Mormont orders Sir Jeremy to search the area for 10 leagues around, using hunters and foresters if he does not have enough men. If Benjen or any more of his men are around, he will have them found, and if there is anyone else around, he will have them found as well. As they ride back, Jon follows the Lord Commander and finds that it is too warm, with the wall weeping copiously. This weather is called by the old man Sprit Summer, when the season is giving up its ghost. This means that winter is coming, and a long summer means a long winter. Jon now thinks back to the stories that old Nan told of the others coming riding in the dark and everything, including cities falling before them and how they feed their servants on the flesh of human children. When they finally see the wall, Lord Commander Mormont calls for Sam and compliments him, telling him that he is fat but not stupid. When they arrive at the gate, the Lord Commander is told by Bowen Marsh, the Lord Steward, that there has been a raven. Mormont orders the bodies put in a storage room. Meanwhile, Jon notices everyone is looking at him and knows something is wrong. Jon searches out his friends, and Pip tells him that King Robert is dead. Jon wonders if his father will now return to Winterfell and decides that when he visits, he will ask for the truth about his mother. His friends ask about the bodies, but Jon only says they were queer. As he walks to the Lord Commander's tower, Jon notices the stairs again, and when he arrives, he is told that Mormont wants to see him. When he enters, Mormont surprises him with an offer of wine and asks him to sit. Jon states that it is grievous news about his father and the king, which Mormont confirms. The Lord Commander tells Jon that it is said that the king loved to hunt and that the things we love destroy us every time. He then states that if it had not been for the love of a woman, his son Jorah would not have thought to sell poachers into slavery. Jon does not understand, but the Lord Commander gives no answer, only a repeated order to sit and drink. Jon is told that his father has been imprisoned as a traitor for plotting with Robert's brothers to deny the throne to Prince Joffrey. Jon denies that his father could ever be a traitor, but then recalls that he fathered a bastard. Where was the honor in that? The Lord Commander explains that he plans to use his contacts in King's Landing to ensure that Eddard is allowed to take the Black. They could use men of Eddard's ability on the wall. Jon thinks that it would be a terrible injustice to strip his father of Winterfell, but knows it would be preferable to death. Then he remembers Joffrey mocking Robb Stark and Sir Rodrik Cassel and asks if the king will listen. Mormont replies that Joffrey may listen to his mother, though it is too bad Tyrion Lannister is not there. Mormont declares it a bad thing that Jon's mother took Tyrion captive, but Jon haughtily reminds him that Catelyn Stark is not his mother. Jon then asks about his sisters, and Mormont promises to ask about them. Then Mormont states that he hopes Jon is not going to do anything stupid. His duty is now here, and his old life ended when he took the Black. He then dismisses Jon, telling him that he can help write the letter the next day. Despite Mormont's words, Jon remains convinced the Starks are his family and wonders how it cannot be his concern. He also wonders whether his father could truly be a traitor. At the evening meal, Jon realizes that everyone knows about his father's arrest. When his friends rally to him and assure him that they do not believe the stories, Jon realizes that they are now his brothers as much as Robb and Bran and Rickon. Then Jon hears Sir Alliser mocking both Jon and his father. In the blink of an eye, Jon jumps over the table and attacks Sir Alliser with a knife, but his friends hold him back and he is marched to his sleeping cell. Later, Mormont visits him and reminds Jon that he told him not to do anything stupid. Now the high officers must meet to decide his fate. A guard is left at his door, and his friends are not permitted to visit him, though Ghost is allowed to stay. That night, Jon wakes to Ghost scratching at the door, and it is very cold. When he opens his door, Jon finds his door guard dead and hears noises coming from the Lord Commander's chamber. Taking the dead guard's sword, Jon ascends to the Lord Commander's chamber, where he finds the door open and Mormont's raven squawking. He sees the shadow of a man in black with icy blue eyes going to the Lord Commander's sleeping chamber. Ghost attacks the man, and Jon pulls down the curtain so that he can see. The man has black hands around Ghost's throat. Jon cuts off an arm with his sword, and Ghost is able to wrench free. The next stroke cuts halfway through the man's face, and now Jon recognizes Othar. The severed hand claws up his calves, and Jon pulls it off. Ghost attacks the hand while Jon strikes the undead man in the neck, but Othar slams into him, knocking him down. In the fall, Jon loses his sword. Othar is on top of Jon and attempting to choke him, but is finally pulled off by Ghost. As he regains his feet, Jon spots the Lord Commander standing naked in the doorway with an oil lamp as the hand approaches him. Jon grabs the oil lamp from the Lord Commander and throws it on the drapes, setting them afire. Then Jon grabs the burning drapes and throws them on Othar, praying that the white will burn. Bran watches from a guard turret with Maester Luwin's fair eye as the Karstark forces arrive at Winterfell. When Robb heard the news that their father had been taken captive in King's Landing, he called the Stark bannermen together for war. The Karstarks are the last to arrive. 300 horsemen and near 2,000 foot led by Lord Rickard Karstark with his sons Harrion, Eddard, and Torrhen riding beside him. The Karstarks are said to have Stark blood in them, going back hundreds of years, but the first men do not look like Starks to Bran. Bran has not been allowed to leave the castle since the incident in the Wolfswood. Robb insists that there are no men available to guard him, and is not dissuaded by Bran's argument that Summer will protect him. The incident in the Wolfswood shames Bran as he is not able to protect himself. Even Rickon would have been able to kick them. A year ago, he would have visited the village anyway, climbing over the walls, but now he can only watch with Maester Luwin and Hodor. Maester Luwin has taught Bran all the banners, and now he has faces to associate with them. Bran asks how many knights there are, and Luwin tells Bran that there are over 12,000 men, but only 300 knights because the North holds to the old gods, and knights are anointed in a sept of the faith of the Seven. However, Luwin assures him a man's worth is not marked by a Sir before his name. Bran asks when they will leave and is told they must leave soon or the countryside will be eaten clean. Robb has a long way to go and the fighting has started. More men will join Robb as he travels south. Bran tells Hodor that he does not want to watch anymore. Maester Luwin reminds Bran that his brother is busy greeting the Karstarks, but Bran assures him that he wants to visit the Godswood. Hodor now carries Bran in a basket strapped to his back, an idea Luwin got from the baskets used by the serving women to carry firewood. Being carried this way does not shame Bran the same as being carried like a baby, although Hodor sometimes forgets Bran is on his back when going through doorways. When Bran exits the castle, there are Karstark men arriving. Some men mock him, but Bran has been warned of this by the Maester. His attitude is to let them mock since he does not want to stay in his bedroom. Bran calls for Summer, and the Karstark horses reel as the direwolf goes by. When Bran arrives in the Godswood, he pulls himself out of the seat on Hodor's back using a branch of the weirwood. Then he lets Hodor lower him down beside the water and says he wants to be alone with Summer. Bran has been finding himself drawn more to the heart tree, and now he takes comfort from its deep red eyes. The old gods are watching over him. He feels safe and it gives him time to think, which he has been doing a lot of recently. Bran prays for Robb not to go away, for the safety of his family, and for Rickon to understand. Rickon has grown wild and violent since he learned that Robb was leaving. Once Rickon disappeared, and when he was finally found down in the crypts, the youngest Stark had slashed at the men with a sword, and Shaggy Dog bit Gage on the arm and took a chunk out of Micken's thigh. It took Robb and Grey Wind to bring Shaggy Dog under control. After that, Farland changed Shaggy Dog in the kennels, and now Rickon cries even more. Luwin and Bran have both asked Robb to stay, but he refuses, saying he has no choice. Bran believes this is only a half a lie because Robb could send someone else to guard the neck. Robb's response was that their father would not send others to die while he stayed behind the walls of Winterfell. Robb denies all who request being given supreme battle command. Many of the lords try to test Robb by making demands, but he is able to handle them much as his father did and bend them to his will, even when anger flares. When Great Jon Umber demanded the right to command, he drew his sword against Robb. Grey Wind immediately reacted by biting off 2 of his fingers. Since the incident, the Great Jon has been Robb's staunchest supporter. That night, Robb came to Bran's bedchamber pale and shaken. Robb also told Bran that the most frightening bannerman is Bruce Bolton, who never says a word but only looks at him. When Bolton does this, all Robb can think of is the room in the Dreadfort where the Boltons hang the skins of their enemies. Bran states that this is only a story of old Nan's, but then asks for confirmation. There are many horrible stories that comes with the travelers, and it is impossible to say which is real, although some are obviously untrue. Then the letter from Sansa arrived with the seal of House Stark. After Robb had read the letter, he crushed it. Sansa had said nothing of Arya, and Robb asked what is wrong with her. Bran replied that Sansa has lost her wolf, remembering the day 4 of the guardsmen returned with the bones of Lady. They buried the bones in a cemetery with the faithful servants of Winterfell. She went south, and only her bones returned, like Lord Rickard Stark, Brandon Stark, and 200 men, and none returned. Now their father, Arya, Sansa, Jory Cassell, and Fat Tom have gone south and not come back, and later Mother and Sir Roderick left and have not come back. Now Robb is going south, and it frightens Bran. Bran prays that the gods look after Robb and his men going south, and that they defeat the Lannisters and bring father back. Bran is surprised by words from Osha, who is apparently able to move quietly in the shackles she has to wear. She tells him that she can hear the gods answering him. When Summer comes around the pool to sniff her, she flinches. Bran calls Summer back and asks Osha, whom he has not seen since she was taken captive, what she is doing here. The Spear Wife replies that they are her gods too, and the only gods beyond the wall. Bran notes that she looks more womanly with her longer hair and her dress of brown roughspun. She tells Bran that Gage lets her out to do her prayers from time to time, while she lets him do what he wants under her skirts when he feels the need. It is nothing to her. She likes the smell of flour on his hands, and he is gentler than Stiv. She offers to leave, but Bran asks her to stay and tell him what she means about hearing the gods. She tells him to open his ears, to which Bran replies that it is only the wind. Osha asks him who sends the wind, insisting that the old gods can see him and hear his words. Bran asks what they say, and Osha replies that they are sad because they cannot help his brother in the south. The old gods have no power there because all of the werewolves were destroyed thousands of years ago. They cannot watch over his brother because they have no eyes. Now Bran listens, and it seems there is sadness in the wind, but then he only hears Hodor, who arrives naked from his bath in hot springs. When Osha sees Hodor, she declares that his size denotes giant blood in him. When Bran tells her that Maester Luwin taught him that there are no more giants, Osha tells him that the Maester should ride beyond the wall. The giants sometimes breed with men beyond the wall, producing half-breeds, though it goes much worse on the women that have sex with a giant. She then asks Bran if he knows what she is talking about, and he tells her he does, as he has seen animals mating. As Hodor leaves to dress at Bran's command, Bran admits that he is very big. Osha confirms there are giants beyond the wall. When men leave their fires, they often do not come back, or sometimes they come back as whites with blue eyes and cold black hands. Osha explains that she had tried to tell Robb, Maester Luwin, and even Theon Greyjoy of this, but they would not listen. She asked Bran why else she would flee south in the company of Stiv and the rest of those fools. She goes on to declare that Mance Rayder, once a sworn brother of the Night's Watch, thinks he can fight the whites. Osha states that she, unlike Mance, is of the north, from a long line of the free folk. Osha laments again that she cannot get Robb to listen, and Bran suggests that perhaps Robb will listen to him. Osha is dubious but gives Bran the message. "You tell him, my lord. You tell him he's bound on marching the wrong way. It's north he should be taking his swords. North, not south." Bran does not get to tell his brother this, because Robb takes his meal in the Solar with the great lords to make final plans for the march, while Bran has to act as the host to the Karstarks in the Great Hall. When he arrives in the hall, Bran can feel the eyes on him and hears them murmuring about him being broken. He whispers under his breath that he wants to be a knight, which Maester Luwin overhears. He tells Bran that some call his order the Knights of the Mine, and that Bran could forge a maester's chain at the Citadel in Old Town. Bran states he wants to learn magic, and that the crow promised he would fly. The maester says he can teach Bran many things, but no one can teach him magic. Bran replies that the children of the forest could teach him. Then he remembers what he promised Osha, and tells the maester of the threat in the north. The maester promises to talk to Osha, but it is even obvious to Bran that what he has said has made little impression. 2 days later, Robb and his army march south. Robb tells Bran that now he must be the Lord, the Stark in Winterfell. Bran, who has never felt so little alone or scared, does not know how to be a lord. He is told to listen to Maester Luwin and to take care of Rickon, who has refused to say goodbye, claiming that no one ever comes back. Robb states that Mother will be home soon and promises to bring Father back. As Robb's forces leave, Bran remembers Osha's words. He is marching the wrong way. Then he hears the cheers from the village and thinks they will never cheer for him. All that seems to be left in Winterfell are women, children, old men, and Hodor. After taking his pleasure, Khal Drogo arises from the sleeping mats and declares that the stallion who mounts the world has no need of an iron chair. Daenerys reminds him that it is prophesied that the stallion will ride to the ends of the earth, but Drogo responds that the earth ends at the Black Salt Sea, which no horse can drink. Daenerys tries to explain ship to him, but Drogo is not interested and leaves to go hunting. She can only hope that if his hunting goes well, he might return in a more receptive mood. Maybe he will even kill a Hrakar, the white lion of the plains. Although he is brave, even by Dothraki standards, like all his people, Drogo still fears the sea. Daenerys sends for Ser Jorah. When he arrives, she pleads for help convincing her husband to ride west. Ser Jorah explains that Drogo has never seen the Seven Kingdoms and probably thinks of them as small islands like Lys or Thorath. The riches of the East seems a lot more tempting. He continues that she should have patience and not make her brother's mistake. Ser Jorah promises that eventually they will go home. The word home saddens her when she remembers that the Seven Kingdoms are a place she has never seen either, and she wonders if the Dosh Khaleen is her future. In an attempt to cheer her up, Ser Jorah asks if she would like to visit the Western Market, where a great caravan has just arrived and may carry a letter from Magister Illyrio. Daenerys likes this idea since it will be nice to see the treasures, to hear the sounds of the Valyrian language, and since Drogo is gone, to travel in a litter. She does not want to appear weak in front of her husband by not riding a horse. Daenerys finds the market quiet compared to the bazaars of the free cities. The caravans come from east and west, not so much to sell to the Dothraki as to trade with each other. The Dothraki do not fully understand the concept of buying and selling, but the merchants are welcome as long as they do not disturb the peace or profane the mother of mountains and give the traditional gifts to the Dosh Khaleen. Daenerys enjoys the wonder and magic of the Eastern market, with its strange foods and people, but the Western market reminds her of home. She tells Ser Jorah about how she loved to play in the bazaars of the free cities when she was a little girl, even though they seldom had money to buy anything. She especially remembers the honey finger cakes of Tyrosh. When she asks if they have such cakes in the Seven Kingdoms, Ser Jorah is unable to say. Ser Jorah asks her pardon to seek out the merchant captain to ask about letters from Illyrio, but when Daenerys offers to join him, he is insistent that he go alone. Daenerys finds this curious and wonders if the knight plans to visit a brothel afterwards. Daenerys wanders joyfully around for half of the morning, even laughing for the first time since her brother's death. As per Dothraki custom, she receives several items as gifts and reciprocates them with medallions from her belt. Turning a corner, they come upon a wine merchant offering thimbles of wine. Daenerys accepts a taste of the wine, speaking in Valyrian, which surprises the merchant, until Doria steps up to declare all of Daenerys' titles. The merchant immediately insists that the wine he was going to offer her is not worthy of a princess and offers her a cask of his finest wine. Daenerys graciously accepts the cask, knowing that Drogo has acquired a taste for wine from his time in the free cities. As Daenerys is ordering the cask taken back to the litter, Ser Jorah appears and states he wants a taste of wine. The wine merchant resists, insisting that Ser Jorah is not fit for such wine, but relents and pours 2 cups when Ser Jorah threatens him. Then Ser Jorah orders the merchant to drink. Instead, the merchant throws the cask at Daenerys and flees. Ser Jorah pushes Daenerys out of the way, and Doria just barely catches her before she falls on her pregnant belly. Drogo uses his whip to trip the merchant. The ruckus brings a dozen caravan guards and the merchant captain running. The merchant captain seems to guess what has happened. He orders the merchant taken away to await Khal Drogo and gives the merchant's goods to Daenerys as a gift. Daenerys asks Ser Jorah how he knew, but the knight insists that he only suspected because the letter from Magister Illyrio had made him fearful. As they return, Daenerys notes that her baby is moving restlessly, and she comforts him with words about being the blood of the dragon. When they get back to the hollow hammock that serves as her home, Daenerys orders the rest to leave her with Ser Jorah. The knight explains that the letter from Magister Illyrio brings news that the usurper has offered lands and a lordship to anyone that kills Daenerys and her child or her brother. Daenerys observes with a laughing sob that the usurper owes Drogo a lordship for killing Viserys. Daenerys then thinks that the usurper has woken her dragon and looks over to her dragon eggs. She commands Ser Jorah to light the brazier despite the heat and then asks him to leave. She then pushes the eggs under the coals, wondering if she is destroying the eggs. Nothing happens as Daenerys is very disappointed, but wonders even to herself what she was expecting. Drogo returns with the carcass of a Hrakar as the stars come out. After he has told her that he will make her a cloak of its skin, Daenerys tells him what has happened. Drogo becomes very quiet as Ser Jorah tells him that this will not be the last attempt. For their roles in saving his Khaleesi, Drogo gives Ser Jorah and Drogo their choice of his horses. Drogo also proclaims a gift for his unborn son, Rhaego, the 7 kingdoms of Westeros. Drogo then swears to the Mother of Mountains that he will take his khalasar west and ride the wooden horses to Westeros to kill the men in the iron suits and tear down their stone houses. He vows to rape their women, take their children as slaves, and to bring their broken gods back to Vastothrak to bow beneath the Mother of Mountains. 2 days later, the khalasar leaves Vastothrak heading southwest. The wine cellar is forced to run naked, chained behind Daenerys' silver. No harm will come to the man so long as he keeps up. As they approach Moat Cailin, the ancient fortress of the First Men, which guards the neck, Catelyn is relieved that they are not too late. She is accompanied by Sir Brynden Tully and Sir Willis and Sir Wendell Manderly with their 1,500 men, including 20 knights and 200 mounted men. Their father, Lord Wyman Manderly, who is too fat to sit a horse, has remained to see to the defenses of White Harbor, but sent his 2 stout sons, who would have been the fattest men Catelyn had ever seen if she had not met their father. Sir Brynden, upon seeing the fortress, thinks it is a death trap. Most of the ancient fortress has long since rotted away, leaving only 3 out of the 20 towers. Catelyn reassures him that according to her husband, it is more formidable than it seems. The 3 remaining towers command the only causeway across the impenetrable bogs of the neck. To assault any one of those towers, an enemy must wade through the waist-deep muck and lizard-lion-infested moats, then climb the moss-covered towers while exposed to attack from the other 2 towers. In addition, there are also supposed to be cold, vengeful ghosts of the north that hunger for southern blood. Sir Brynden just that he, as a Southron, should not linger in this place. Catelyn heads for the Gatehouse Tower, understanding the lone Stark banner to mean that Robb has made his seat there. She arrives to find Robb surrounded by his father's bannermen in a drafty hall. At first, Robb does not notice Catelyn, but his wolf does. After his bannermen fall quiet, her son looks up and is happy to see her. Each of the lords pay their respects to her, Theon Greyjoy being the last. He expresses surprise at Catelyn's presence, so she explains that she learned Robb had called the banners when she came ashore at White Harbor. She then introduces the Manderly brothers and her uncle. When Robb asks, Catelyn explains that she has sent Sir Roderick back to Winterfell to act as Castellan and to assist Maester Luwin in military matters. After some of the lords give Catelyn reassurances that Winterfell is safe, Lord Roose Bolton states that it is rumored she holds Tyrion Lannister, who would be a good hostage. Catelyn admits she lost the dwarf because the gods saw fit to free him with help from her sister. Speaking of Lysa, Catelyn recalls that before leaving the Eyrie, she attempted to convince her sister to let her take Robert Arryn as a fosterling, but Lysa's rage had been frightening. Catelyn then sends the bannermen and Theon away to speak to Robb alone. Once they are gone, Catelyn knows that her son looks older, especially with his new beard. Catelyn, who is afraid for her son, notes to Robb that he is only 15 and leading a host to war. Robb insists that there was no one else. Catelyn argues that he could have given command to any of the bannermen or even Theon, although he would not have been her choice. Robb responds that none of them are Starks. Catelyn then reminds Robb that he was fighting with wooden swords less than a year ago. Robb's eyes flare with anger, but he softens and asks if she is sending him back to Winterfell. Catelyn explains that she cannot do such a thing. If she did, the bannermen would lose respect for him, which would hurt him when he becomes Lord of Winterfell one day. Robb's relief is obvious. Robb asks if Catelyn knows about Lord Eddard's capture, and she says she does. Robert's sudden death and Eddard's fall scared her greatly. Catelyn asks about the girls, and Robb tells her that letters addressed to each of them from Sansa arrived at Winterfell. Robb returns with a crumpled parchment and hands it to her. She reads it with concern, giving way to disbelief, then to anger, then to fear. She exclaims that it is Cersei's letter and that they have Sansa hostage and mean to keep her. Robb points out that there is no mention of Arya and that he was hoping that Catelyn still held Tyrion to exchange for his sisters. Robb then asks about the Knights of the VIIL and is told that Lysa will do nothing. Only one Knight of the VIIL will ride to war, the best, Sir Brynden Tully. Robb asks Catelyn what they are going to do with the 18,000 men he does have. Catelyn can tell that Robb is caught in indecision, which will not do. Knowing he is worried about his father and sisters, Catelyn explains to her son that if he goes to King's Landing to bend the knee, he will never be allowed to leave, and if he retreats to Winterfell, his lords will lose respect for him. In either case, Cersei can do as she likes with her captives without fear. Their only hope is that Robb can defeat the Lannisters in the field. Cersei cannot harm her captives because she will need them as hostages if things go against her. However, if Robb loses, there is no hope for any of them, and they will suffer the fate of the Targaryen children. There is naught but stone in the heart of Casterly Rock. Robb states that makes it simple. He will not lose. Catelyn then asks about the situation in the Riverlands. Robb informs her that the war has begun. A fortnight past, Sir Jaime Lannister smashed the Tully force led by Lord Vance and Piper at the Golden Tooth and is now advancing on Riverrun. Meanwhile, Lord Tywin Lannister has come up from the south with an even larger army. The army ambushed the party of Lord Beric Dondarrion sent to bring Gregor Clegane to justice, killing Raymond Darry and most of the men from Winterfell. Lord Beric may have escaped, but no one knows for sure. Now Lord Tywin is marching north to Harrenhal, burning as he goes. The news is worse than Catelyn imagined. She asks Robb if he plans to await Lord Tywin's army at Moat Cailin, but Robb says that no one thinks that Tywin will be stupid enough to come that far. Instead, he will take the castles of the River Lords one by one. Robb believes that they should march south to meet him. Catelyn questions the idea of leaving their strong position at Moat Cailin, fearing that her son has no chance against seasoned battle commanders like Tywin and Jaime Lannister. Robb explains that his supplies are running low and that an army the size of his cannot live off this land forever. Now that Lord Manderly's force has arrived, they need to march. Catelyn realizes the truth in what Robb says, remembering that Robb's is not a standing army, but a levy of fishermen and farmers that will not stay cohesive if left idle. Declaring that marching is all well and good, Catelyn asks Robb where he plans on marching to. Again, Robb is uncertain. The Great John believes they should take the battle to Lord Tywin, while others think they should join with Sir Edmure Tully to defend Riverrun. Catelyn tells her son that since he appointed himself battle commander, he must command. He cannot appear indecisive in front of his lords. Catelyn asks Robb again what he intends to do. He declares that both plans have their merits, but he does not think a commander as experienced as Lord Tywin will be easily surprised, and his forces are too strong to defeat easily. Robb decides to have his infantry continue down the King's Road, but to send his horse across the Green Fork and then south to relieve Riverrun. This will put the river between his two forces, but also between Tywin and Jaime. However, The only available crossing of the Green Fork is at the Twins, which is controlled by House Frey. Although a bannerman to House Tully, Lord Walder Frey has never been the most loyal. All Catelyn can think of is that the late Lord Frey failed to arrive at the Battle of the Trident until after the battle was done. She tells Robb that her father has never trusted Lord Walder and that he should not either. Catelyn, impressed by Robb's plan, asks who will command each force. Robb informs her of his plan to lead the mounted force to Riverrun himself, while command of his army of foot soldiers moving south to intercept Lord Tywin will be given to the Great Jon. In an attempt to show Robb his error, Catelyn points out that his father considered the Great Jon one of his most fearless men, but that his father is not fearless. He is brave, but that is different. Robb reconsiders and decides he needs a man of caution and cold cunning to lead the main force. Robb realizes that he should put Roose Bolton, whose cold cunning scares even him, in command. Hopefully, Bolton will scare Lord Tywin as well. Robb states that he wants Catelyn to return to Winterfell. She insists that her father is dying and her brother is surrounded by foes. Her place is with them at Riverrun. Chella of the Black Ears is the one who locates Lord Tywin's army, which she deduces to be 20,000 men. Tyrion has gathered a force of over 300 mountain clansmen, and Gunthor, son of Gurn, is collecting more. He wonders what his father will make of his little army, since he is not sure what to make of them himself. Tyrion wants to meet his father without the clansmen, but Ulf, son of Umar, expressed distress, and Shagga insists that he will go with the boy man, and if he lies, Tyrion will lose his manhood. Tyrion is forced to quickly give in to the demands of his captor followers. He's still not sure which they are, and selects representatives from each clan to accompany him. As a parting jibe, he asks the remaining clansmen to try not to kill each other while he is gone. Tyrion dislikes having to work with the clans because they think everyone's voice should be heard in council, which causes them to argue endlessly. When they come to the first strong point, which Tyrion approaches alone, the captain recognizes Tyrion and gives them an escort. They travel past burned land and buildings. There are many carrion birds, although there are no bodies. When they arrive at the guarded camp containing hundreds of campfires, they are met by a party led by Sir Flemett Brax, who is surprised to see Tyrion. He tells Tyrion that his father has taken the inn at the crossroads as his headquarters, which Tyrion finds a fitting full circle to his unpleasant abduction. As they pass the many banners, Tyrion guesses that Chella's count cannot be far wrong. He also notes that his clansmen are awed, which pleases him. The more impressed they are by the power of House Lannister, the easier they will be to control. When they arrive at the inn, Tyrion is pleased to see the body of the innkeeper, Marsha Heddle, rotting in a gibbet. When the stable boys emerge hesitantly to take their horses, Shagga is suspicious, but Tyrion is able to convince him. House guards at the door direct Tyrion to his father in the common room. Lord Tywin Lannister is sharing ale with his brother Sir Kevan Lannister. Kevan sees Tyrion first and expresses surprise, but Tywin only remarks that the rumors of his demise are unfounded. Tyrion tells his father that he is sorry to disappoint him, feeling uncomfortable with his deformities under his father's gaze. He quickly covers his discomfort with a quip that he is thankful they started a war for his sake. His father takes the opportunity to chastise Tyrion for going meekly with a woman. His brother Jaime would not have gone without a fight. Tyrion replies that Jaime is also taller. Lord Tywin then explains that Lannister honor demanded they go to war after Tyrion was captured. Tyrion asks them how the war is going. His father explains that Jaime has been covering himself in glory, smashing the forces of Lords Piper and Vance at the Golden Tooth, and pushing on to defeat the main Tully forces outside Riverrun and capture Edmure Tully. The Blackwood has fallen back to hold Riverrun against Jaime, but the other river lords have dispersed to their own lands. Many of these lords have now fallen one by one to Lord Tywin's army, leaving only the Freys and Mallisters to oppose them. Lord Tywin is not concerned. He knows that Walder Frey will not bestir himself until the winner is clear, and Jason Mallister lacks the strength to stand alone. The only real threat is that the Starks or Arryns will interfere. Tyrion tells them that they need not worry about the Arryns, but the Starks are another matter. He is informed of Eddard Stark's arrest and that Robb Stark has called the Stark banners. Tywin remained unperturbed, declaring that Robb is only a child. When Tyrion questions how Cersei has convinced King Robert to imprison his dear friend Ned, he learns that the king is dead and Joffrey now reigns. Tyrion immediately understands that his sister is the true ruler and knows that things will be very different. Tyrion is then offered a command in the army. He is to handle Mark Piper and Carl Vance, who have been raiding Jaime's supply trains across the Red Fork, and Beric Dondarrion, who has been harassing Tywin's foraging parties. Tyrion is not impressed with this command of perhaps 20 men, so he reveals to his father he has a promise to keep: weapons and armor for 3,000 clansmen and wagons to carry them. Then the door opens with a crash as the captain of the guard flies across the room. Shagga stamps in, followed by another clansman. Lord Tywin coolly asks who they are, and Tyrion explains that they followed him and wants to keep them. The clansmen insist that free men have the right to sit on war councils. Once Tyrion has introduced the clansmen, he introduces his father, complete with all his titles. Lord Tywin claims that even in the Westerlands they have heard of the prowess of the mountain clans and asks what brings them here. The reply is horses, silk, and steel. It is then that news arrives that Robb Stark's host is coming down the King's Road. Lord Tywin is pleased that he will be given an easy chance to defeat House Stark so he can turn his attention towards Stannis Baratheon. He gives orders that Sir Adam Marbrand fall back to draw the Northerners further south, harassing them along the way. After ordering the army assembled, Tywin compliments the clansmen's fearless reputation and promises that if they fight for him, he will provide them with all that Tyrion promised them and more. The clansmen insist that they are being promised what is already owed. Tywin quickly covers by claiming that his words were a courtesy and that his boldest knights fear to face the Northerners. Timett takes the bait and declares that the burned men fear nothing. With the burned men agreeing, all the other clans agree, but only if Tyrion accompanies them into battle until the promises he made them are honored. Sansa attends King Joffrey's first court session. As a reward for being good and promising not to leave the Red Keep, Sansa has been granted freedom of the castle by Queen Cersei. However, even Sansa realizes that it is an empty honor since she cannot get past the guards in any case and has nowhere to go if she did. In addition, the Queen has attached an honor guard to accompany Sansa everywhere. The throne room has been stripped of all the hunting tapestries that King Robert loved so well. Sansa also knows that there are no small folk and only perhaps 20 of the 100 lords accustomed to wait on King Robert. Sansa wonders where the others have all gone. As she passes among them, many of the men pretend not to know her and none will meet her eyes. Joffrey and Cersei are announced by a herald and enter escorted by members of the King's Guard. Once he is seated on the Iron Throne, Joffrey declares that it is a king's duty to punish the disloyal and reward the faithful and asks Grand Maester Pycelle to read his royal decrees. The list of those that must present themselves to swear fealty goes on for a long time. Finally, near the end, the names of Sansa's own family are called, even down to Arya and Rickon. The naming of Arya suggests to Sansa that her sister must have escaped and be safe in Winterfell. It is then announced that the king's grandfather, Lord Tywin Lannister, is to take up the office of Hand of the King in place of the traitor Eddard Stark. It is also decreed that Cersei Lannister, as Queen Regent, be seated on the small council in place of Stannis Baratheon, and that Janos Slynt, commander of the City Watch of King's Landing, be raised to the rank of Lord and granted the ancient seat of Harrenhal, as well as a seat on the small council. Janos Slynt then enters the hall, displaying his new lordly sigil, to take his seat on the council table. The elevation of Slynt a butcher's son, to the lordship of Harrenhal visibly angers many of the knights and lords present. Finally, Pycelle reads a decree that in these times of turmoil, the council considers the safety of King Joffrey to be of paramount importance. Queen Cersei stands and calls forth Sir Barristan Selmy. She proceeds to thank the old knight for his many years of service in the King's Guard, but declares that the time has come for him to set aside his burden. Sir Barristan is confused until the new-made Lord Slint explains bluntly that he is being relieved as Lord Commander of the King's Guard. Sir Barristan is plainly stunned and protests that only death may relieve a King's Guard of his sacred trust. Cersei asks whose death, his or his king's. Joffrey goes even further, accusing Sir Barristan of letting his father die and declaring him too old to protect anyone. Sir Barristan reminds him that he has long ago forsaken his ancestral lands and keep and a wife to be in order to serve in the King's Guard. He goes on to recount his history as a member of the King's Guard, protecting and serving 3 kings. Littlefinger knows that all 3 of these kings are dead. Then Cersei reiterates that Sir Barristan's time is done because Joffrey needs young and strong men around him, and that Sir Jaime Lannister will succeed him as Lord Commander. Sir Barristan is outraged that a man who killed the king he swore to protect should be made the Lord Commander. Varys attempts to calm the situation, insisting that they are not ungrateful to Sir Barristan and that Lord Tywin Lannister has agreed to grant Sir Barristan a tract of land in the Westerlands, with men and gold sufficient to build a stout keep and service to see to his every need. Sir Barristan venomously describes such a gift as a hall to die in and men to bury him. He removes his white cloak and armor and drops them on the floor, declaring that he will die a knight. Littlefinger quips, a naked knight it would seem, which raises laughs from the entire hall, even the remaining members of the King's Guard. The laughter ends abruptly when Sir Barristan draws his sword, but the old knight insists they should have no fear, even though he could still cut down the remaining 5 King's Guard with ease. He adds in disgust that any man who would serve under the Kingslayer does not deserve the white cloak. Then he throws his sword at the foot of the Iron Throne, declaring to Joffrey, "Here, boy, melt it down and add it to the others." Before he leaves, the old knight suggests that perhaps Stannis will depose Joffrey and sit upon the Iron Throne. The knight's footsteps echo through the hall as he takes the long way out. Joffrey is incensed at Sir Barristan's talk of Stannis and at being called a boy. He orders Sir Barristan seized and questioned. Finally, Janos Slynt announces that his gold cloaks will see to it. It is then announced that Sandor Clegane will fill the vacancy created by the departure of Sir Barristan. Joffrey asks the Hound what he thinks, and Clegane declares that he has no lands or wife to forsake, but that he will not take a knight's vow. Sir Boros Blount of the King's Guard protests that the members of the King's Guard have always been anointed knights, but is quickly rebuffed. The time has finally come for Sansa when she hears the herald ask for any further business. She nervously comes forward, thinking that she must be as strong as her lady mother. She calls out, and Joffrey, seeing her, tells her to come forward, which emboldens her. She begs mercy for her father. Queen Cersei expresses displeasure, but Varys only claims that she is a child who does not understand what she says. Joffrey tells the others to let her speak. The small council questions her about her father's treason, and Sansa knows better than to deny it. Instead, she tells them that the others must have lied to her father and that he only claimed Joffrey was not the king because of the pain from his broken leg and the effects of the milk of the poppy. Joffrey calls for his mother, who states that if Lord Eddard confesses his crime, then they will know he has repented. Sansa prays that her Joffrey be as kind and noble as she believes he is. Joffrey agrees that if Eddard admits his guilt and swears fealty, he will be granted mercy. Sansa assures them that he will. Well, that's it, everyone. Thank you so much for stopping by and watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, please leave them down in the comments below. I will be doing a Q&A at the end of the month for the entire book, so please leave your questions down below so that I can compile them if you want them answered. Again, thank you so much for stopping by. Please give it a thumbs up if you liked it, and please subscribe to come back for more. Thanks again. Bye.